still says go. Oh, okay.
You're
You're
alive.
alive. Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Venerable Wade Buripano. We're here at Empty Cloud Monastery for a Sangha panel tonight on family harmony. Have with me the newly ordained, much to our joy, newly ordained Bhante Metiko, ordained last Sunday or Sunday before last. I forget the date, about 10 or 11 days ago.
26th.
The 26th.
A day I'll always remember.
Right.
My noble birth.
That's right. Sadhu. And we're going to be doing a Sangha panel this evening. Bhante Sudaso told us this afternoon we'll be doing family harmony. So we're talking quite a bit about that and taking questions also from those who are remotely watching. I'll take questions from the yogis here. I'd like to say also we have with us Samanera Wadha. I mentioned Bhante Metiko's ordination. So maybe we can turn the camera to Samanera Wadha. There's quite a bit of interest amongst the community in his ordination also. So give him a chance to say
Hopefully we'll make anybody
the
kind
camera
of sick.
Here we go. All right.
There we go.
Many viewers from home wrote in with congratulations to Samanera Wadha and expressed interest in his ordination as well. With Bhante Metiko. So I wanted to give you a chance to show him for the first opportunity to see him live on the live stream as well.
We're going to keep the camera on him for the whole time.
Would you like to say anything, Samanera Wadha?
Well, I'd like to say thank you to everyone who's shown their support and their congratulations. So it's good to be here. Provide that support from the community.
Sadhu.
So
I think okay. Yeah. Thank you, Samanera Wadha. Okay.
So it's good.
Right. Okay. Before we get into the topic, we're getting some sadhus on the people writing in sadhus already. Maybe Samanera Wadha, no doubt, and Bhante Metiko. And we'll start off with doing the traditional Namo Tassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang Dhammang Sanghang Namasami. Well, I thought one of the things we could start off with is talking a little bit about our background. Bhante Metiko, I'd like to ask you go ahead and take the first opportunity. You used to work in child psychology.
I did. I was a school psychologist for a long time. And my background is actually in marriage and family therapy, and then I became a school psychologist. So I did mental health services for a long time, and then became a school psychologist. I did that for a long time, as well as part of my time is working with families, kids in schools, but also I worked at a shelter for women and children going through domestic violence. And so that was part of my career. And obviously, I'm part of a family. I have a family and part of a monastic family, which I'm very fortunate.
Sadhu. As I understand it, before you ordained, you were married and you have children of your own.
Yes, I was married and I have a child, a beautiful child.
Okay.
So, yeah, maybe a little bit different from. It's not uncommon for monastics.
That's right.
But yeah,
to have some experience in raising a family before joining the monkhood. I myself did not. I did not start a family before joining the monkhood. Came from a family, never worked in a field related to in a relevant field like this. So perhaps I can bring some perspective from the Buddhist teachings to some extent. We'll have to see. I may have a slightly different perspective on families from a mainstream American, I guess, because I ordained in Thailand. about 9 years ago. Lived in Thailand in monasteries for about 10 or 11 years. So some exposure to the Thai way of thinking about family, and also receive some teachings from some meditation masters that may be relevant to the topic of family harmony, as well as community harmony in general, as the monastery is a monastic family also. Okay. I wonder, Bhante Mechiko and I had a chance to prepare a little bit before coming in. We thought might start off with some general observations about harmony and disharmony in families. To begin with, and opening with some remarks from Bhante Mechiko.
Oh, thank you. So I do think an important part to remember, family can be very difficult at sometimes and also very beautiful. I mean, it's a source sometimes of great joy, happiness, and security. And also sometimes it's the people that are closest to us sometimes that can cause the most friction, I think. And so realizing that's just part of families, it's not always that, that joy, like, is pretty normal. And I think it's a normal aspect of families to have ups and downs, everything. It's like anything that's in the world, there's ups and downs, and sometimes we have friction with families and we take it very personal. And as the teachings, as a Buddha laid out, it's not personal. It's just what's occurring during those times. Sometimes there's friction with our families. We struggle to get along with maybe siblings or parents. And yeah, I think that's pretty normal sometimes. Even, I mean, pointing from a psychological background or that aspect, it's pretty normal that especially teens start, I mean, developmentally, like, it's appropriate. And that helped me a lot, I think, in lay life, understanding like how those behaviors developmentally are appropriate. Kids pulling away from parents, kids wanting to be individuals. And it's an important time to understand, this isn't personal. This is just kind of normal development, and giving people the space. And I think the Dhamma always helps with all those things to understand. Yeah, this is just normal development, or we can't control it. The only thing we can control is our own minds and our responses to it. And so I think that's important to remember as well. When things don't go maybe the way we want.
You mentioned something I think we often find in life, which is that the people we're very close to, both physically, in terms of physical proximity, and also in terms of the heart. Sometimes the people we love the most are the ones that we hurt, or that sometimes we find ourselves in great friction with. And it seems ironic even. Knowing that there's a commonly retold story within monastic circles in the Ajahn Chah Sangha that it can be quite difficult to get along with the monk who usually sits next to you.
Are you trying to tell me something right now?
Except for Bhante Mechiko. One Western monk who later wrote a book about his experience at Wat Nong Papong said that sometimes it seems like 80% of all the suffering in the world is caused by the monk who's sitting right next to you. So, seems like as you're sitting there meditating, you have plenty of opportunity to find fault, or to think a lot about that one thing that he did, or the few character traits he has that just really drive you up the wall, and, that are so horrible. And so, of course, with seeing this process happen in the mind, it's an opportunity for us to learn about our own tendencies sometimes to find fault, and how much we can find ourselves thinking about things that we like or don't like about people, and how the mind can kind of run on its own in this way. It finds something and it thinks about it, and it thinks about it some more, and it becomes magnified in importance. Hence the line, 80% of the suffering in the whole world. And noted ironically that the mind can start to think this way, and if we have some mindfulness about this and what the mind is doing, then we can kind of get some distance from this thinking process and let it unravel, kind of thing. This also can happen, I think, if we talk about it from the point of view of finding fault. We also think about it in the point of view of liking as well. As we get very attached or to things we think are very positive, and which in fact, may commonly be thought of as being positive. And as we get attached to these things, then it can cause us to favor some people over other people, for example. It can be a cause for some rivalry within groups, within families, for example. It also can be a cause for difficulty if these things that we really like start to change. Talk about family harmony. There's family harmony and there's family disharmony, and it's pointed out in monastic circles sometimes that we were always trying to foster community harmony and to keep the community harmonious. But we have to have the perspective that even if we can get everything perfect within the community, that it's not going to last forever. And so we have to hold it all very lightly, that community harmony and disharmony are both quite natural and normal. And that throughout it all, we want to cultivate a mind that is less attached. It doesn't go along with its liking and its disliking. Wonder if you have any thoughts on this.
Yeah, just as you were speaking, one thing that I was thinking about as you were talking about that fault-finding mind, and how sometimes we do have to switch that. It's easy to, at least for myself, like it's easy to find fault in others, but then also, as the Buddha talked about, like look at your own mind. Don't worry about what others have done. Worry about what you have done, what you haven't done. But also sometimes just looking at the good qualities that somebody is doing, and I think those are always there, And sometimes we have to really look at that instead of finding fault. Oh, that person's like, oh, why are they doing this? They're sitting next to me and they're not. Oh, they're not meditating. They're doing this or doing that, or why do they walk so slow? I'm going to buy, like. So instead of those things, look at the good qualities. And so kind of shifting the mind from a fault-finding mind to a mind looking for the goodness.
Excellent. Yeah.
And that can help sometimes with our disposition and kind of our mind. And even dealing with family sometimes, understanding, oh, this is a good aspect. We may be so focused, oh, they better not say this again. One more time and that's it. But instead shifting it and looking at, oh, this is a person trying to be nice, or this is a person that's doing these things, and looking at that. This is a mind that has all these good qualities. I'm just focused on these bad qualities. And as you said too, things change and being okay. The other thing is letting go of those expectations. It's got to be this way. Mm-hmm. We have to understand that. Earlier, your introduction, that, oh, you ordained and you've lived in Thailand for a long time. It's understanding that things are different in different places and at different times, and people change. And we have to be able to accept that if we hold if we have these conventions, this is the only way to be, we will suffer when it has to be this way. Or there's a good thing, you talked about things changing. When there's this, maybe something's happening we really like, and then it changes. And then we can get, why isn't it like that way? They used to be this way. They should be this way. We have to understand that. And that's where the Dhamma, I think, really helps us understanding everything is impermanent and it's changing. And if we're rigid, we will suffer with that. We have to be able to be flexible in our minds and our attitudes towards things, because it's going to change.
That's not true.
That's one reason.
Maybe dovetailing a little bit with what you discussed in regard to trying to see the good in people. That when we find the mind is finding fault, trying to see the good in people as well. You reminded me of another teaching within the Ajahn Chah Sangha. It's a metaphor that Ajahn Chah gave, a simile. He said it's like he said if we try to view people like trees in the forest, he said if you look out in the forest, you'll see that there are some very small trees, and there are some medium-sized trees, and there's some very tall trees, with broad canopies providing a lot of shade and perhaps a lot of fruit, this kind of thing. He says, does it make sense to look out at the forest and the trees in the forest and criticize the smaller trees for being small? Well, the medium-sized trees for just being medium-sized? He said, he was trying to point out that all people have to go through development, just like the trees in the forest. And if we find that someone isn't meeting our expectations, perhaps it's just that they're still in a phase of development. And in different trees, they're going to develop in different ways, in different spans of time. Going into another topic, actually, it occurred to me that oftentimes in our current society, in Bhante Metiko, you were talking about this a little bit earlier. We were talking about some of the expectations for children, that we have expectations that they'll develop on a certain timeline.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And
All right.
to some degree, there is something to this. If we can learn about how children naturally develop over time, this can be helpful.
Yes.
in terms of learning how to help them grow and develop and so on.
Very true.
We also have to understand that every child is an individual, and every adult is an individual, and maturity and learning and development have to happen in kind of the fullness of time. Okay. That can't always be on a timeline that meets our expectations or our desires, or meets our goals, might be in line with our goals. And the development of each individual person has to take its own time, with proper nurturing, of course, and support, and allowance.
Yeah, I think as you're talking about that development, I was also just thinking about recognizing the development of other people, but the development of ourselves and our growth of ourselves. And understanding sometimes we have these expectations for ourselves, like, oh, I should be this large tree, for to use that something like I should be this tree. But understanding, no, we're still growing to that. And it's good to have that aspiration. I want to be this. But it's a process and it takes time. And definitely one of the things that I wanted to talk about too, the importance, and I think this has come through several talks, the importance of sila, and the importance of sila within the family. Because one of the most important things for a family is security and feeling safe and the safety. And to me, that's what the precepts do in the training rules. Just the idea of, if you just even take the one of speech and not lying, that's very powerful. And to have a family where that's in there, and that's an important part about to me, always important part about the precepts. When you talk about the precepts, it's a way of giving safety to the world, safety to yourself, but safety to others. And so within a family, following the precepts can be very powerful, not only for yourself, but for those within that family unit, I think.
So too, yeah. Right. I think it's called in the sutras one of the 5 greatest gifts you can give, or following the 5 precepts. So too.
And then, they really are gifts. They're gifts to everyone around us. very important.
I think one of the supports for following the 5 precepts and this general idea of safety is loving kindness. It says in the suttas that the following the 5 precepts, that you're giving the 5 greatest gifts to all living beings, and the reason is that because by following the 5 precepts, you're giving them freedom from fear, that you won't do anything against them, anything to harm them. And so it's got this attitude of loving kindness to it, giving someone freedom from fear. And one aspect of loving kindness is putting ourselves in the position of other people and trying to sympathize with them. How would they feel in this kind of a situation? If I say this or do this with regard to somebody, how would they feel? How would I feel if somebody did that to me or said something like that to me or about me? These kinds of considerations. There's a story in the suttas where the Buddha comes upon a group of boys that's spearing fish in a barrel. And he tells them, "Oh, boys, how would you feel if you were one of those fish? If you were those fish in the barrel, and people were doing this to you?" And this made the boys stop and think, and they stopped spearing the fish. And I guess something each one of us can think of, with regard to our own actions and our speech. How would other people feel? Or excuse me, how would I feel if if I were in their shoes? As I say. Hearing speech like this, or if people acted this way with regard to me, it's one aspect of kind of loving kindness, being able to sympathize with them. Another aspect is having a practice, having some Dhamma practice, kind of on a regular basis that develops us in this way. Usually, I think all the monastics recommend trying to have regular Dhamma practice as part of your life. The practices of keeping precepts, as Bhante Mechiko said, and practice of generosity, and some meditation practice. So the doctors these days say that everybody should meditate at least 20 minutes a day, because it's good for your emotional well-being. It's good for your physical well-being, and it makes you more intelligent, actually. And they say that loving kindness meditation, scientifically proven to improve your emotional intelligence, actually. And so, we have it in the Buddhist teachings, having regular meditation practice is good for us. We have it scientifically proven now as well. And I think for those of us who've practiced for a while, we find that it has a positive impact on our personalities that those around us can really sense. There's a story of a meditator. He was a middle-aged man who he was English, an Englishman who had started to meditate. He'd been meditating for about a week. He consulted a teacher, how do you meditate? He'd been meditating at home a little bit each day and so on like this. And one evening over dinner, he was, while he was eating dinner, he's thinking to himself, I don't know if there's really any benefit to this meditation practice. I've been doing this for about a week now, and I don't know if I'm really getting anything out of this. And I wonder if I should really continue or not, And coincidentally, his wife, who was eating dinner with him, spontaneously mentioned to him, dear, you started meditating, and I think you've been in a better mood since you started meditating. I wonder if you've noticed that also. And so even he didn't quite notice himself, but his wife had noticed that he'd been in a better mood, and so he said, "Okay, well, I'll keep at it for a while more and see how it goes."
And I think that's a good point, Venerable, that sometimes we don't see the changes necessarily, but other people see them in us. And I was also going to say, family is sometimes people, I want to go to a monastery, or I want to ordain so I can get away from my family, That's my way to get away, but I think that's the wrong way to think about it. Like, the family is a very powerful area of practice.
Mm-hmm.
And we can really practice those aspects of loving kindness, forgiveness, mudita, compassion, all the aspects of the Brahma Viharas, and the whole practice is within our families, because the families sometimes it can't, as we talked about when we were beginning to talk about in the beginning, it can be challenging. We have those issues. I mean, that's part of being in a family. And so how do we apply the practice? How do we apply the Dhamma? How do we apply what we're learning in meditation when we're encountering those things within families? Maybe those difficulties, but even those joys. How do we share in just the joy of being in a family? How do we rejoice in the success of our children, of our parents, of our siblings? And I will also say that for the people that think like, oh, I'm going to ordain and get away from my family, you will end up gaining. Maybe you get away from your family, but then all of a sudden you have, you're sitting next to all these people. And just like we were talking about, monastic life is like family because we don't choose our parents. We don't choose our siblings. Like, it's not like in monastic life. I don't know, like when you're at Mapjai, where you're like, no, don't let that person in, not that person. All of a sudden, you have all these people that you're your siblings. So you really are your brothers and sisters in the Dhamma.
Right.
But you can't be like, no, I don't want you. And yes, you, not you. I mean, and that's part of our own practice is learning. How do we live in community? How do we live in harmony? What are the things that not only contribute to harmony within the community, but as Venerable was saying, how do we contribute to harmony in our mind? What do we do in our own practice when we're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe the way that person eats out of their ball or something like that. We get so frustrated. We see this person every day. Oh my gosh. But what practice do we need to do within ourselves to harmonize, create stability in our mind, create that loving kindness in our mind? And so families are a great opportunity to practice that, to learn that. Yeah.
I wonder if we can do one thing. If we move pardon me, everyone, I just want to move this camera a little bit, just a couple of inches to our left. So we'll do that really quick here.
Technical adjustment.
Technical adjustment. Does it like it's okay? All right, good. That's very good.
Better.
Thank you.
That was an example of harmony.
That's right. Successful camera move.
Successful camera move. But I could have been like, no, I like it over here. The camera was fine. Why are you moving it?
That's right. Yeah.
You have to. I mean, that's part of sometimes is letting go. Well, camera's such a minor thing.
That's right. It's interesting. It's a good point. Actually, there's a sutta where the Buddha is asking a group of
wonderful sutta example.
You already know it. That's right. Asking 3 arhats, how do you live together harmoniously? And one of the things they say is we try to practice acts of loving kindness in body, speech, and mind.
Right.
One of the others is that they always try to think, well, why don't I do things the way the others want to do it? So each individual will think, well, why don't I do things the way the other 2 want to do it? This group of 3, these 3 enlightened beings. This takes quite a bit of flexibility, And I think that's an important point right there. The how attached are we to how things are done, and to the way that people behave, and so on like this, and to what degree are we really invested in, how can we all get along well together? How much of a priority is that really for us, and how high of a priority should it be? Of course, for the people, such as the parents in a family, you really have to set parameters and boundaries and set goals for the family and manage the situation.
Yes.
And so that's very important. And you have to have the ability to kind of make the mind calm and calmly assess, really, well, have I gotten overly invested in these certain kinds of ways of doing things or thinking about things? Right? And how much am I really thinking about being flexible enough to accommodate all the people in the family, for example. Children have to think about, being flexible enough to follow the lead of the parents and follow what they want you to do. The parents, it says in the sutras, have a duty to their children to steer their children in the direction of goodness and to help the children rid themselves of evil. You have to train the children, really. And in there is a lesson, I think, about what's really important. If we look at what are our priorities for our children, for example, how much of it is really important? Okay, how much of it has to do with truly important things, and how much of it has to do with things that are actually less important, that could be considered superficial, and preset notions about the way our children should be, for example, or the way the society says our children should be, and so on, like this. Am I too invested in my child having a certain kind of career, for example, or marrying a certain kind of person, or even getting married? These kinds of things. How much are we thinking about? Well, does my child am I educating my child well enough in cause and effect relationships about what really is skillful and what isn't skillful? These kinds of things. How does it feel to be generous, and how does it feel to be selfish? What are the consequences of being honest, and what are the consequences of lying? These kinds of things. Okay, as opposed to what might be considered more superficial things, if we take a hard look at it.
Yeah, thank you, Venerable. One of the things I was thinking about as you were talking, letting go, as you said, those expectations of what we expect of the career, maybe, or, I want my child to marry this kind of person, I want my child to be this way. I was reflecting on the practice, and the practice really is about letting go of these expectations, letting go of this idea of self, like this is the way. And so I think that's another way that the practice helps with harmony. The other thing is also, though, important through the practice is the development of wisdom and the development of even that loving kindness. And so we also recognize maybe this relationship, maybe this is unhealthy, maybe this isn't. I haven't met it for myself. That doesn't mean I sacrifice myself.
So right. That's a great point. Yes.
Yeah. The other thing too I was struck about, as you were talking about, as we teach the children the importance of teaching through example. Sometimes I remember I had a friend of mine, he was talking about, it was like generosity. And he was asking me, well, how do I teach my kids like generosity? And I said, show them, like, go do this, like, go volunteer, go do these things, like, show them the importance of it. And also, like, then you can show, oh, this is what it does to the mind. This is like what I'm feeling. But kids learn through example. So I think that's always a good way. People wonder, oh, I want my kids to be these moral beings. So we'll show them what, be that example for them.
Right.
Be the example of Siba.
Right. If we can involve children in activities that are important. Okay, right. As a learning experience, and to develop these kinds of character traits, the trait of generosity, for example, involve them perhaps in decision-making processes with regard to sila, and this kind of thing. Then actually involving them in kind of the hands-on learning, so it becomes part of their character. If, on the other hand, we, at the other extreme, we extol certain things, but they see us doing other things, then they see, really what our priorities really are, and they think that's kind of subconsciously they learn these kind of patterns of behavior as well.
I don't know if you saw that when in Thailand, as people would bring their families, young children coming. And I always think that's so beautiful. I love seeing that. Just these generations of people, practicing and coming to the temple, and like young kids, learning how to bow and things like that. I think it's really beautiful because they're teaching these ideas of dana and generosity, families are bringing their children to the monasteries and teaching them, like, oh, let's give food. And it's not like, oh, just do this blindly, but what does your mind feel like? And they see, and I think that's important on our side, to really show how much that appreciation, show that joy in receiving such beautiful, whether it's one small thing or a huge meal, no matter what it is, it's so joyful, and it brings me a lot of joy to see that. And I think that's important to communicate to children so they learn, they see it's not just, they can see the joy in giving, the joy in dana and giving to others. So I think that's important. So I think that's a beautiful thing to bring and teach children right away. So, yeah, the importance of this.
If parents can tell their children, and grandparents can tell the grandchildren stories about sacrifices that they had to make in order to keep their sila, for example, and relate these as part of the family history, the culture of the family. This can make an impression on them that people actually make some people they look up to, who are ahead of them on the path in life, if you will, made sacrifices in order to keep their sila, to keep their morality. They could have told a lie, but instead that they were honest. And it may not have, in some ways, it may not have seemed very clever at the time. They could have gotten out of trouble, for example, or gotten something they wanted if they told a lie, but instead that they were honest. And perhaps they had to make a sacrifice because of this. We can also relate, what you think the positive aspects of this were. That so-and-so in the family has a strong reputation for honesty. And people trust this person because of it, even if he sometimes had to make sacrifices for it, or say things that he'd rather not say, or something like this. If these kinds of stories become part of the culture of the family, then this can help children to understand how important this is and the value of these kinds of things.
Yeah.
This feeds through, of course, into family harmony, because if each member of the family is keeping sila, then they're being good to each other. They have a kind of an atmosphere of non-harming towards each other and trust within the family, and each person feels like this is something that they should try to live up to, something worth fostering in the family. It's very important. I think it's a family harmony. Something that is very important, that can be taken for granted sometimes, is the fidelity between mother and father. Something that I don't know how much is talked about now in modern America. It's a topic that's talked about quite a bit in Thailand, about infidelity within the family, and is quite a significant social problem. I think that I saw some of that more especially in lay life. I was in lay life before I went to Thailand to ordain as a monk, and this is something that people often discount until they get into trouble. It has a dramatic impact on the entire family. People, mothers or fathers get involved, spouses get involved in extramarital relationships, for example, and thinking that with something like this, if nobody finds out, nobody gets hurt, and there's really no problem. But we know that actually quite often people do find out, and then it's a disaster for the family. And this is such a big problem. I think it's imperative for spouses, those in committed relationships, to really exercise a lot of self-control in this area. One of the conditions for thinking that you won't get caught, or thinking that no one will find out, one of the conditions for getting caught, and for other people to find out you've had an extramarital affair and to have a problem in your family, is thinking that no one will find out. That's kind of step one on the path of getting caught in an extramarital affair, and having serious family issues that could lead to regret for the rest of your life. Okay. When children, for example, your own children, feel like you've betrayed the family, for example, it upsets your relationship with the children for the rest of your life. The other side of the family, some of whom you may be close to, and of course, the love of your own spouse. So we talk about disharmony. This is one of the very serious issues that we have to be very careful with, I think. I think of other. We're kind of moving into bigger issues.
Do you want to start taking some questions? Should we just take some questions? What would you like?
Maybe we are going. Oh, sorry, 8:13. There's more I wanted to say. Before taking
Oh,
questions.
please.
Let's take a show of hands. How many people want to knock off at 8:30? How many people are willing to stay until 9? We're getting non-committal here. No,
Like people.
maybe people are willing to go longer.
And for the sake of harmony, no one's like.
That's right. Okay, well, let's take some questions. Right. Let's take
And
questions,
we can always add. I think we can always
take some questions. That's good.
Yeah.
We may run into some areas.
Yeah, where those points are.
For you to speak about the areas you wanted to.
Yeah.
Let's see.
So we,
Okay.
So we have lots of sadhus.
Yeah, sadhus.
What's
Sadhu
that?
venerables. I think probably in regard to the ordinations. I remember seeing some comments specifically in regard to the sadhu, the ordinations. Congratulations. We have a lot of people writing in. Sud, Joke, Robin Hill, Egod, hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. Christina, Manal, Jayanta, Sadhu, 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 Jayanta says. Julie, congratulations, venerables. I look forward to the live on Saturday. So we have a Saturday program in the evenings starting 6 o'clock, guided meditation and Dhamma talk. So open to the public. Please join us. Julie's writing ahead that she's going to be here. And keep scrolling down. We've got Karen B. Congratulations, venerables. No doubt for Bhante Medico and Samana Awata for their ordinations. And oh yes, another one. Congratulations on your ordinations from Joe.
Thank you all. It's very kind.
And Karen wrote a congratulations. And Bhumika is viewing, and Elenice. She says I'm very impressed, Bhante Medico. Sadhu, yes, aren't we all? Yes. And we have Manal. This is wonderful to hear Bhante Metiko's monastic point of view from someone who was married and
Was married. I'm not married. I'm married to the Dhamma.
No, he's married to the Dhamma. That's right. Sadhu. Okay. Yeah, you read the next one. Sorry, I'm going to be.
No. Okay.
Dhamma. You could probably see him better too.
We have glad to see both of you Sundays. I recommend visiting. We have from Dhamma Learner who says he's giving his Yelp review, saying recommending anyone to come to the monastery. It's a good experience.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay. Very good.
So, let's see. We have Kobe who was just here. Hello,
That's
Kobe. We hope you're well.
That's right.
And so here we have, in other words, hell is the other. I don't understand that.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Christina Golko is written in saying, in other words, hell is the other. Okay. It reminds me of, I wonder if this is the reference. It reminds me of Sartre's play. No, it was in French, it's walls without doors. Is in English, no exit. It says one of the characters exclaims partway through the play his experience with his other inmates in the hell room that they're staying in. He says, "Hell is other people." Right? Sometimes it can seem like that, right? John Bays is watching, listening today, this evening. Yes, please.
So we have Sujir Bhante in the Mangala Sutta. The Buddha says, to support parents, to cherish wife and children, this is the highest blessing. Why is this so? Is it good karma meritorious in itself? I think the question goes on.
Right. Okay. Oh, maybe down here.
Did I go too far? I think I went too far.
Oh, what was that one? We can't see it now.
I think it's this one.
Oh, yeah.
To be generous and giving to help.
Oh.
Is that right? Did I go too far?
I think we have to get them both together here. Right. Okay. Yes. Good point. You got it there.
Yeah. Is it good karma meritorious in itself to take care, to be generous and giving to help one's relatives? This is also said to be a highest blessing. So it sounds like two questions. The first one.
Okay.
Do you want me to go back to the first one?
Okay, maybe we do that and display that one. Oh, it is displayed. It looks like.
Oh, there it is.
Right.
Is it? Oh, there it is. So, why is this? So is it a good comment in itself to take care of family?
Oh, can we show it again?
Yeah.
Right, that's it.
Help 'em.
Right.
So here's the first part.
So yes, well, right. So supporting and giving, is good karma. I mean, assuming that this is supporting and doing skillful things, and giving. And so, when we have family that we can help, when we are giving to them and supporting them, that's good karma in and of itself. I think in regard to supporting one's parents, this is an important duty of children we have in the suttas. Maybe I'll give a sutta reference for people who are interested in studying the Sigalowada Sutta of the Digha Nikaya, in which the Buddha instructs the Sigala. Hopefully I have the right name. Suddenly I'm doubting the name. I believe it's Sigala, about the 6 directions. Okay, I'm getting some affirmative nods from someone, so that's good, reassuring. About the 6 directions, meaning the 6 groups of people that we relate to in life and our duties with regard to them. And 2 of the directions are parents and children. And so the Buddha tells this layman that one of the duties that children have to their parents is that they have to support them. This, of course, is a tremendous benefit in that it fosters a positive relationship between a child and their parents, especially even as they're getting into old age and going through old age disease and the dying process, to be there to help the parents, so that later in life we have the satisfaction of knowing that when our parents were in suffering, we were there to help them. Otherwise, we might feel regret. It fosters a closeness between them, so that between the children and the parents, so that the children have an opportunity to learn from the parents as they're going through this process. It sets the example for one's own children that if we're supporting our parents, this sets the example for the children that this is the right thing to do. These sorts of things. So there are many benefits to this kind of practice. You probably think of some more on your own. To cherish wife and children, this is the highest blessing. I think that the feeling of loving kindness that one can have for one's spouse and for one's children is in and of itself a very pleasant feeling. If it's based in loving kindness itself feels very good, It fosters very positive relationships, so very conducive to community harmony. If we feel annoyed, if we feel angry, these kinds of things, then it's quite an unpleasant feeling. But if we're feeling loving kindness, that's quite pleasant. They say that and actually the sutras say also that loving kindness is very powerful good karma. It says in the sutras, the Buddha is counseling Anathapindika, his foremost male lay follower. He says, even if you give, he says, 84,000 in gold and silver over the course of an entire year, which in modern parlance would be like saying, even if you give away millions of dollars over the course of a year, then that's good karma. It's punya, it's merit. But if you make the determination to follow the 5 precepts, then that's even greater good karma. That's greater punya, greater merit. But if you practice loving kindness for as long as it takes to milk a cow, so it'd be about 15 minutes or so, then that's still even greater good karma. And so this is a great blessing and a great protection in our lives if we're able to develop and have this loving kindness in us towards those who are close to us.
Yes, thank you for bringing up this. As you said, I think it points to the power of metta, the power of loving kindness, and as he said, being generous to one's family it stimulates that in the mind. It's an act of loving kindness.
One of the Kruba Ajahns, he talking about the duties between parents and children. One of the masters in Thailand was giving a Dhamma talk, and he said there's quite a terrible view that seems to be getting more and more prominent these days. I don't know exactly what he was talking about. Perhaps he was talking kind of in Thai society. The idea that the children don't really have duties to their parents because it was the parents' decision to have children. And by having children, they basically have made the decision that they have the duty to take care of their children. And so the onus is all on them. And the master was saying this is quite a terrible view to have because it's very conducive to suffering in the lives of the children. So if a child has this view with regard to their parents, then this is quite conducive to suffering in their lives. It's quite an unskillful view. It won't cause them to really fulfill their duties towards their parents, which they should do, such as taking care of them and supporting them and being respectful and courteous towards them. Instead, it's conducive to them being impolite to their parents and being demanding towards their parents and to not taking care of them. And that this is all in the line of unskillful behavior. It's all negative karma. And according to the suttas, the Buddha said that children should look on their parents as being like Brahma or like the very first teachers. These are very high beings to us. Brahma is at the time the Buddha was teaching, Brahma was considered a very high divinity, and he still is in Buddhist circles. Someone who was very good. And the first teachers are kind of the root teachers, as we say in Thai, the mother and father masters, those who foster the entire lineage of all the teachings that we have. And the reason for this is that they take care of us and they introduce us to the world. And so parents teach us so much about life, and they take care of us physically, so many physical supports. And so it's considered that the parents are kind of like, to their own children, are kind of on the level of like the arahants, the masters and very high divinities. And if we violate them, or if we act inappropriately towards them, this is very heavy karma, because karma is somewhat graded with regard to whom you perform it in relation to. So, for example, killing and harming in general are bad karma. They're akusala, they're unskillful actions. But how heavy it is somewhat related to who you perform it in relation to. So, for example, harming a Buddha to the extent that he bleeds is considered one of the most heinous acts there is, that leads to automatic rebirth in the hells. Okay. Similarly, for killing an arahant. And interestingly, according to the suttas, it says that the Buddha said, and also for killing your mother or your father. And so with this kind of a statement in the suttas, our own mothers and fathers are placed at the same level as the arahants, and being disrespectful or impolite towards them, not fulfilling our duties with regard to them, is considered quite heavy bad karma. But conversely, if we act skillfully with regard to them, if we're polite towards them, if we take care of them, and so on like this, then this is quite powerful good karma. And so perhaps this is one of the reasons it says in this Mahamangala Sutta. So it's such a wonderful sutta, I think, that for all of us to study in the Sutta Nipata, that supporting our parents is one of the highest blessings.
So the next question. So from Sue, to be generous and giving to help one's relatives, this is also said to be the highest blessing. But how far should one take this? What if your relatives end up taking advantage of your kindness?
Then
should we just be like the earth or the air and the water and just accept it in the way it is, as it is?
As it is said in the Kaku Let's see, Kakuchupama. Okay, Kakuchupama Sutta. Sorry,
Right.
say that 10 times fast. So,
Yeah, so.
what do you think? Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say, earlier we talked about the importance of panya and wisdom, dealing with family, not only with family, but also just people in general. And if people are doing things to take advantage of us, we have to have that wisdom and that metta for ourselves. Like, is this hurting us? Are they just taking advantage of us? Being kind doesn't mean, and giving doesn't mean like, oh, okay, you just open up your house. You don't open up your house and let anyone come in. Oh, please come in and take whatever you want. Like, I'm a kind person. Please steal whatever you want from me. And so we need that same wisdom when we're helping others. I think that's important to reflect upon.
Right.
Yeah.
It's one meditation master, a Machi. This is in Thailand, an 8 preceptor female monastic. So kind of a nun, sort of in modern Thai society. She once said, you can't grow enough grass to thatch every roof in town.
Right.
So you should be generous, but you have to be generous within your means. So what if people are not what if they're being demanding, or they're trying to take advantage of you? And I think each of us has to have kind of a center within us. Kind of has to have a solid center. In meditation practice, in following sila is very good for this. It builds up the strength of our hearts, so we can kind of stand our ground and be realistic. Maybe, pardon me, we're just going to say, maybe would it be possible to put the cat into one of the other rooms? We're just having some. Teddy the cat loves to chew on the computer wires.
So, I mean, it's kind of a good example. People would be like, I want to be kind, so I'm going to let the cat do whatever he wants. Like, we're being generous and we're going to let him eat the wires. No, like, we're using wisdom and say, like, no, like, it's too much. And it probably causes too much damage. And so, I mean, using that example, like, it's good to give, and it's always good to be kind, but we also give kindness with wisdom. Kindness with wisdom and metta. Metta for the other person, but metta for ourselves. And is thatching every roof in the village feasible? Am I going to hurt myself doing this process? Am I going to ruin my own peace of mind? And it's hard because families put sometimes we put a lot of demands on ourselves as being a member of a family. I'm this, so I should help. I should do this. And we have to look at that,
I think one thing is clear and honest and straightforward communication.
Right.
Be very important in these kinds of situations.
Yes.
We have to be aware of how much of the situation, as we perceive it, is actually our perception. How much of it is the reality, and always trying to be clear about this in our minds, and in trying to think about, well, how well do other people really understand the situation? Where there's what they're saying, where does what they're saying come from, and this kind of thing. And one basic strategy is to be straightforward with them by saying, if I understand correctly, what you want is this, okay, and making sure that you understand them correctly, and also seeing if there's something that you can agree with, in what they want, assuming that you have understood correctly what they want from you, and if possible, validating that. You're validating something in there. I can understand why you'd want this or that. If I were in your shoes, I would too. For example, this is one kind of example. And then if you also can inform them about the situation as it is, what kind of what kind of possibilities there are for you helping them, and what kind of limitations you have. That oftentimes can clear up quite a lot. Oftentimes people come to their own views and perspectives about what other people can and cannot do for them. And this leads to perceptions on their part about, well, I'm sure that, you can help me with this, but you're not doing it because you don't love me enough, or you're being selfish, or they may not realize all the other obligations you have, or what limitations you really have, and so on like this. And in frank and open communication about these kinds of things can clear up quite a lot.
Yeah, thank you for talking about the importance of communication, just in general. It's very important. And LNEC really likes your metaphor about the trees.
Oh, not my metaphor.
John Chaw's.
Ajahn Chah's metaphor. That's right. I can't take credit for it at all.
She appreciates you sharing.
So too.
That metaphor. And so this is Sudi. He said, should we continue to be generous in faith that we're doing good karma, even if the other person is taking advantage, in faith in that karma will play itself out? I think we kind of talked about this part.
Yes, this is one way of looking at the kind of the finding the good in a difficult situation. That if you feel, even if you feel like you're being taken advantage of, even if someone were stealing your purse, if you decided to make a gift of it when you gave it to them, this would be good karma. But even if you feel like you're being taken advantage of, if you can look at it that way, that this will be good karma, then this is a benefit to you. On the one hand, you develop your quality of generosity. On the other hand, it says in the suttas that if you give something to an animal, it'll come back to you 100 times over. If you give something to a human being, it'll come back to you 1,000 times over. And if you think about this, it's going to be quite develop some happiness, in your heart, and that if we consider that when we do good things, it says in the suttas, the highest kind of intention behind it is that it will ennoble our own hearts and make our hearts more beautiful. These are all nice reflections we can have to make us feel better about a situation like this.
Let's see. Manala has Bhante Mexico in some ways a household practitioner. I'm like, I should be reading a lot.
Okay.
Bhante Mexico, in some ways, as a household practitioner, isn't one's progress in the Dhamma as an independent learner dependent on how self-sustaining one's spouse, child are, as long as they need me as mother, wife, I am kind of bound by being there for them lovingly. Yeah. And therefore attached to them, first only focusing depending on understanding the Dhamma.
Is that the end of the question?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
so. And please, Venerable, correct me if I'm going to answer how I understand it, but please correct me if you're seeing it a different way. But I read this almost as this phrase as like either or. Either I'm a parent, a loving parent, or I'm focused on the Dhamma. And to me, it's not two different things. Like it's not either or. You're focusing on the Dhamma as being a parent. And I think it's a beautiful thing that you're committed to your children in that life. And you should do that. That's your obligation. Not an obligation, but also earlier we spoke about having a family as an opportunity to practice the Dhamma. Venerable was talking about being generous and generating that mind of loving kindness. And we have those things as being a parent. I would always say, like, man, being a parent, especially, I don't know how old your child or children are, but sometimes I would think, with my son, like, wow, this is really testing my content. This is really testing my patience. This is really testing my loving kindness. And so studying the Dhamma helps you become a better parent. It helps you become a better family member. And having a family gives you those opportunities to really practice those things. How do I practice loving kindness right now? How do I let go of this idea of self? I want my child to be this. But how do I let go of this? How do I let go of this preference? How do I let go of all these things? So, yeah, don't look at it as like, oh, I'm going to do this. And I think sometimes we do this. I'm going to take care of my family, and then I'm going to focus on the Dhamma. No, it's not like that. You do both together, and they really nourish and support each other. And you can grow in the Dhamma as your family grows, and as you grow within your family, they hold them together. And I think earlier, Venerable, you gave the example of the man who's practicing meditation for a week. And let me just say, if you, after a week, you're like, I don't know if this is working, like, maybe try like 10 years, and then like, oh, I don't know. It takes a lot longer than a week, a practice, but it's wonderful. Someone could already see the results. That person's wife could already see the results in a week. So keep practicing the Dhamma, and you'll find like, oh, wow, it's strengthening me as a person in this world, and vice versa. Oh, this is something I learned through being a parent. I learned this about loving kindness. And then you take that to your meditation. You take that to your study of the Dhamma. They feed each other. They're not, I'm just going to do this and then this. No, they're together.
So,
Yeah,
excellent. Yeah.
that's what I found in my own practice.
Question from Linda, one of the yogis.
I'm just curious to hear your reflection, not even relative to particular situation, but when I think of family, like we will fail often and regularly, and in terms of how we would aspire to be, and it feels like the post fail, response and how we come back feels like it might be an important part of the practice with family. So I'm just curious to hear like any reflections in considering any sort of situation, whether it's a simple garden variety irritation to responding to the 100th time somebody did something, and so just considering the broad context and all the ways we will fail with families. I'd love to hear your sort of any reflections on post less than optimal behavior.
Well, yes, thank you for that question. And earlier, we began to talk about normalizing like the ups and downs of families. We will make mistakes. Because we aren't enlightened beings. So, of course, we're going to make mistakes, especially within family. We're going to have those days where we come home and we're so tired and like, we've been working, like work was so stressful. And we come home and maybe like our spouse, our child, our parent, whoever, like they don't know what kind of day we've had, and that we get through the door and right away they have these things, and like we respond maybe in a way that that's not skillful. And so that's where the practice is so important, because it gives us a chance to really reflect. And earlier, Venerable was talking about just being mindful, and I think being mindful of our actions, but also forgiving of ourselves we will make mistakes within family. We'll make mistakes in life. We'll make mistakes throughout the day, and we have to be able to forgive ourselves, but we always have to be able to go back to the Dhamma, because the Dhamma teaches us the way of being, the way of going, and that is our map, so to speak. That is our guide to a life that's truly fulfilling, the Noble Eightfold Path. The Buddha laid it out for us. Here it is. This is directions. And because we're human, we're not in line. We're going to veer off that path sometimes. We're going to make mistakes. But the most important part is that we learn and we grow from that. And we keep on dedicating ourselves to the Dhamma, dedicating ourselves to wholesome, kusala behaviors, both within the family and society in general. And as long as we just keep on moving forward with that, we don't. And the Buddha gives examples like if you're stuck in remorse, like you're not following the path. Like if you're just stuck, oh, I'm such a terrible person, I can't believe I said this. Then it doesn't give us the opportunity to change our behavior. It doesn't the opportunity to act in a skillful way. And on a more general kind of note, I think the power of just saying, hey, I'm really sorry. Like, I didn't mean that. Like, I was tired. I wasn't thinking, and I'm sorry. Like, apologizing sometimes can be really powerful, especially to children. That's one thing I found working with children. When an adult, like when you generally mess up and apologize to a child, like, it can be really powerful. I can remember once there was a child, I was working with a child who was getting when I was a layperson working at a school. I just kind of knew this kid. I would see him all the time, and I would talk to him. And he was about to get in a fight. He was a little elementary school kid. And I put my hand on him, like, hey, take it easy. And he's like, get your hand off me. I was shocked. So I thought, I was so used to it. It was a rough school. I wasn't quite. And he was like, get your hand off me. And I saw him the next day. And I was like, hey, I'm really sorry that I put my hand on you. I know you're upset. I shouldn't have put my hand on you. And he just looked at me and goes, it's okay, I forgive you. That was years ago. And I'm still like, it still touches my heart. So forgiveness and apologizing, it can go a long way when we get off the path. Both very powerful things. I hope that answered your question. I can't even remember that kid's name. Maybe he's listening right now, and so he'll be like, I forgave you. I was the one who forgave you. You were such a jerk. Let's see this. Yeah, I gotta move on. I think I went too far. Did I go too far?
Oh, I'm not sure where we are now. To admit. Okay, so this is.
I want my far. Please, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I succinctly reached for it. Sorry about that.
No. Like, I'd much rather have somebody like I'm. Yeah, we answered that.
I'm so technologically challenged. I'm not sure I should be the controls.
Yeah, this is time. Well, you're. I'm more technical. I can't even speak. Yeah, those are the ones we answered. Yeah, I went like way.
Manal.
That was the last one.
That was Manal. There we go. Okay. We also have Anthony is dialed in. We have looks like perhaps this is Sinhalese, a gentleman from Sri Lanka. I can't read the name, unfortunately. Sorry. Then Elenice D'Souza. Whoops. Let's see. There was going all over the place here. Here we go. Pardon me. Elenice D'Souza. Would the infidelity of not treat each other based on the precepts the same of the infidelity based on extramarital relationships? the infidelity of not treating each other based on the precepts. The same. Do you have any? I wonder if you have any thoughts on this. I'm not sure if I can take a stab.
Yeah, I'm not sure I understand it correctly. I was like, let's say the precept of the 5 precepts is sexual misconduct, which infidelity would fall under sexual misconduct.
Oh, maybe that's the question. Right. Okay. Yeah. So would infidelity fall under the 3rd precept against sexual misconduct? Is that you think that's yeah? Yes. Right. Okay. Well, so sexual misconduct, according to the suttas, is defined as making any kind of a romantic gesture towards someone who is already spoken for. So if someone is in a relationship with a spouse, for example, they're married, then making any kind of romantic overture or something like this towards that person would be considered sexual misconduct. If someone is spoken for by their parents still, you make a romantic overture towards them, that would be sexual misconduct. If someone is spoken for by their religion, so if they're, for example, an ordained celibate, or something like this, then making a kind of a romantic overture towards them is sexual misconduct. So yes, infidelity between extramarital relationships would be as long as it's if there's an agreement between the people in a relationship that they'll have fidelity towards each other, and someone goes outside of that, one of them goes outside of that, then that would be sexual misconduct. As well as for the person the 3rd person outside the relationship as well.
So here's the next question. Is there?
Pardon me. I just noticed it looked like one of our yogis had a question. I wonder if perhaps it might be related to this.
Yes, I had a question based off of what Sue was saying about the verse in the Sutta.
Okay. Yeah.
To respect one's father and mother and cherish one's wife and children. These are the highest blessings. I wanted to know, when it comes to I'm not a parent, so I'm a child to my parents, and how can we act upon that verse when it can be maybe a difficult difficult way to even basically what I'm trying to say is if you can't even pour from an empty cup, if I'm just trying to figure things out myself, and maybe if my parents or my family with me, if I'm aware of some kind of help that they might need, but it's difficult for me to provide that. But what I try to do is always remind them of the triple gem, and to be on the path. But sometimes also I guess adulting and this stage in my life, there's a lot of different things that's on my mind, or what do I really want. So it can be kind of challenging for me to completely go by that verse and not really intentionally making an impact on it.
Is that you're asking how do you fulfill your responsibility to support your parents?
Right.
If you want to be, for example, devoting a lot of time to the spiritual path, is that kind of it in specific?
Maybe not, whatever it is.
Or if you just can't provide, if I understand your question, what do you do? If some, let's say for a parent, there's that expectation, oh, you're going to support them, but let's say, oh, support them, but you don't have any money. You don't have what it is to give, or wherever you're at. Sometimes you have to take care of it, if I understand. Do I understand?
Yeah, that's a part of it.
I'm not saying money, but sometimes, right. Oh, I need this emotional support, or I need this support. But right now I'm trying to take care of these things for myself. I can't do these things. Is that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So practical, not having to, you don't have what you need, you want to support them, but you don't have the means to support them. And on the other hand, also, what if you're on a path in life where you're trying to follow a spiritual path, for example, you can't be with them as much? Is it these both aspects?
Yeah.
Okay. So okay. What do you think?
Well, I think it probably goes both ways in terms of earlier we were talking about letting go of those expectations of children, and so sometimes it is hard for parents because parents want, or they think this is the best thing for my child, so I want my child to do this. And so we might feel that pressure, like, oh, my parent wants me to do this or be this way. And we feel that pressure when we really want to do something else. And so I think, again, I keep on talking about metta for ourselves, even reflecting on ourselves, and looking at our own hearts and our own minds, like, what are the actions that you can take to bring that peace into your own mind? And even sometimes we're in these situations in life where it's hard, we don't know. And it's part of being any age, I think sometimes. We don't know. And we have to be okay with that uncomfortableness. And that's hard sometimes too, though, because we have all these other people that want all these things from us, right? Yeah. And so at those times when it's real hard, what I found for myself, I just can't give it, but what I can give, and I know you have a big heart, is give that metta sometimes. And sometimes they want us, maybe somebody wants us to be right next to them all the time. And we can't do that. That's not the best thing for us. That's not even the best thing for them. But what is always a good thing, like to dedicate merit. Sometimes in the morning, which I think is very beautiful, do the dedication of merit. And we can think about, oh, this is my parent. This is my parents. These are my children. These are my relatives. And just give that metta and that love to them, Mm-hmm. And that's how we help them. And it might not look like the way they want or the way we even feel like, I'm a daughter, I'm a son, I should be doing this. That's society pressure, The most powerful thing we can is dedicating marriage. And I think the dedication with a pure heart and a pure metta for those people, that's the greatest love, I think, in the greatest way.
Well, it's certainly I think it's a way this often I should say often underestimated.
Yes, it's very underestimated. The power of dedicating marriage.
Yeah, I think on a practical side, we can think about well, for monks, actually, drawing on this is kind of an example. For monks, we're supposed to have the permission of our parents before we ordain as monks. I believe the rule is the same for bhikkhunis. I assume that it is.
Yeah.
I have to say I don't actually know, but we have to request permission from our parents before ordaining. And so it's a time of having an open and frank conversation about practical aspects of life, and for us to really assess what are possible needs and what are possible resources and people who can be supports for the parents. Then once ordained, assuming have received permission from the parents, the Buddha allowed for ordained monastics to still help their parents even once they're ordained, even to the extent of even if the monks actually give food from their alms bowls to their parents. And so material requisites that a monk has, and I assume the same for a bhikkhuni, can be shared with their parents. And so there are examples of monastics in modern times doing quite a lot to try and help out their parents. One of the senior members of the Western Sangha here in North America received permission from the Sangha to live with his mother outside of a monastery and live on a long-term basis with his mother, and to help her out with quite a variety of things that she needed support with. So, for example, they gave him permission. He requested permission from the Sangha to use money, for example. which is against the training rules for monks. But he would use money to go to the store with her or for her, for example, to do grocery shopping and things like this. And so there's quite an emphasis in Buddhism on being supportive of one's parents. And the Buddha said that a monk who is supporting his parents is doing his proper duty. And so the Sangha is quite supportive of monks doing that and bhikkhunis. So even if we're on a spiritual path, we try to see, well, how can we still be supportive of our parents and so on.
And we just have a couple minutes, so maybe we'll enter the speed round of
speed round. That's true.
Bhante Siddhasa calls it like the Zen answers. Like, it's very short. We have a couple minutes. I don't know. Do you want to? I don't. Is there a sutta I can quote to parents to spank their children?
Okay. Is there a sutta I can quote if I know parents who spank their children? I assume recommending to not spank their children.
Yeah, I was going to say, is it to encourage them or what? I don't know.
But I don't know a sutta reference in particular. But in general, there is one. Okay, there's a verse in the Dhammapada that says "spare the rod," or spare physical punishment. It's in the Dhammapada. I don't remember the exact verse. So just as we don't like to be hit or punished physically, so neither do other people. And so it's in the Dhammapada. Maybe if we can scroll to the next one. Elenice. Okay, sorry. Yeah, okay. Does a child carry the karma of his or her parents? I don't think so. I think that we are the owners of our own karma. It's something we often chant. Okay, let's take a look at the next one. From Elenice as well. What is the Buddhist teachings about abortion? One of disharmony in families? When someone can't take care of his or her child, or the pregnancy was a product of an act of violence?
You have a minute.
I have 1 minute. Okay. This is a decision that each person has to make for themselves, and probably in lengthy and substantial consultation with people that they respect. We'll go on to the next one.
Wow, I'm very impressed by that.
Okay.
I think we're at the end.
Okay, we have a lot of other closing comments.
A lot of subjects.
Is that the end? Yeah, wonderful. Okay. Wonderful. Well, thank you all for your wonderful questions and for your patience. We ran on till 9 o'clock. Thank you to the yogis here as well for your questions. Very, very great big thanks to Bhante Metiko for your wonderful input.
Thank you, Venerable. Thank you for your words of wisdom and kindness.
Sure. And I guess we'll do 3 sadhus. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Please
We'll sign off for the evening, I think.
Yes, please, everyone, have a good night.
We will probably, today's Thursday, we'll probably have another monk chat tomorrow night. Okay. And a live stream tomorrow morning as well. Okay.
Take care.